Welcome to the deep dive. Get ready, because today we're diving into the world of, well, the bizarre. We'll be exploring a Hebrew language podcast. It's called The News You Deserve.
It's all about those weird and hilarious news stories.
You know, the ones that make you go, wait, what? Did that really happen?
Exactly. And we're going to unpack why these stories were such a hit with their original audience and what they might say about the culture about the culture.
So to kick things off, imagine you're at the grocery store picking out some pork chops for dinner. You open the package and boom, you're face to face with royalty.
Not literally, of course, but...
Well, not unless you count Princess Di appearing on a pork chop as literally.
Okay, you got me there. But yeah, that's how this story starts.
A woman, Hattie Ozma, found what she believes is the spitting image of Princess Diana on her pork chop.
And she was so convinced she even called over her coworkers to be like, see it. Right. Princess Di, right.
And the best part...
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
This happened right before King Charles's coronation. The timing, right.
It's just too perfect.
Talk about spooky or maybe just a strange coincidence? But here's the kicker. Hattie, she doesn't want to just cook this pork chop.
She wants to, put it in a museum or something?
She's actually looking for tips on how to preserve it, like mummifying it, because, you know, everyone needs a mummified royal pork chop in their life.
Wait, who am I to judge?
Yeah.
But it really speaks to how we're just drawn to celebrity, doesn't it?
Oh.
Even on our dinner plates.
100%. Okay, so from pork chops fit for a princess, let's jump to a story that's a lot more ethically complex. We're talking about a sperm donor who fathered, wait for it, over 550 children.
550.
Yep, that's not a typo. And this came out because one of the mothers, she sued.
Wow, I can't even imagine the emotional roller coaster of finding out you're part of a family that massive and unplanned.
Right. And there's more. This donor, he knew about the guidelines in the Netherlands. They limit donors to 25 kids, you know, to avoid accidental incest and all that. But get this, he kept on donating anyway.
He just ignored the ban.
Basically.
Yeah.
He found clinics in other countries, even turned to the internet. The guy was determined.
Wow. That's something, it really makes you think about the ethical side of all these reproductive technologies, especially as they get, more and more advanced.
No kidding. That's some heavy stuff. All right, how about we lighten the mood a bit? Let's talk about a moose who decided to catch a movie.
Wait, what?
Yeah, you heard that right. This happened in Alaska. A moose wandered right into a movie theater. The whole thing was caught on the security cameras.
No way.
Oh, yeah. This moose, he's just strolling through the aisles, munching on spilled popcorn, even checked out the trash cans, apparently looking for leftovers.
Maybe he was hoping for a sequel to that movie with the talking animals.
Maybe. The theater manager actually joked that maybe the moose was just tired of his regular diet and fancied a night at the movies.
I can kind of relate to that. Movie theater popcorn just hits different.
Right. Okay, but as funny as that is, not everyone in our next story is laughing. This one involves a break-in, but not the kind you'd expect.
Oh, what happened? Someone walk in on a family game night gone wrong?
Not quite. So picture this. Bat Yam, Israel. Police get a call about a possible break-in at an office building. They arrive at the scene ready for anything, and what do they find?
A room full of clowns. Okay, sorry, you're about to say.
The suspect just chilling, watching adult content on the office computer.
Busted. And I bet not in the way he was hoping for.
Not at all. It gets weirder. Turns out this guy, he's 34 years old, and they think he might have broken into the same office multiple times.
Maybe he was just really into their choice of office plants. I mean, you never know.
You might be onto something. All right, one last story before we move on. This one's for anyone who's ever dozed off on public transport, ever woken up at the last stop and had to figure out how to get back.
Ugh, the worst. Happened to me just last week, actually.
Well, imagine this. You're coming home from a trip, land at the Melbourne airport, get in a taxi, and decide to catch a quick nap. No big deal, right?
Unless you wake up to a giant fare because you slept through the whole ride.
Worse. This guy, Ryan, he wakes up and his $160 fare has magically transformed into a $468 nightmare.
Wait, what? An extra $300 just for snoozing? That's highway robbery.
Right. But hold on. It gets even better or worse, depending on how you look at it. Turns out there was another little charge tacked onto that already outrageous fare, an extra $10 for credit card fees.
You can't make this stuff up.
Nope. This is real life, my friend. And of course, Ryan, being the stand-up guy he is, he documented the whole ordeal on TikTok. The video blew up, naturally. You can actually hear the taxi driver in it. completely unfazed, explaining away those charges like it's just another day at the office. Tolls, highway fees, you name it, he throws it in there.
But wouldn't all that have been covered in a standard fare estimate, though? Especially from an airport.
Exactly, you'd think, right. But even with Ryan pushing back, the driver stood his ground. Pay up now, dispute later, basically.
Ouch. Talk about a rude awakening in more ways than one.
Yeah, no kidding. To Ryan's credit, he did pay the fare, but says he's going to look into the charges. I mean, who wouldn't? But before we move on, how about a quick detour into a lightning round of even weirder news? Expert speaker, you ready for this?
Hit me with it.
Okay, buckle up.
A 24-year-old woman at home, suddenly stray bullet pierces through her roof and, well, hits her.
Oh my gosh, no, that's awful.
It is. And it gets weirder. This bullet, it landed in a pretty, how do I put this? A sensitive area.
You're kidding me. Are you serious?
I'm totally serious. They even documented it in a medical journal, the International Journal of Surgery Case Reports. They called it an exceptionally rare injury.
No way. They actually published that. You couldn't make this stuff up.
Right. But the good news is, surgeons were able to remove the bullet, and the woman, she made a full recovery.
Oh, thank goodness. That's a relief to hear. Makes you think about that student and his banana a little differently, doesn't it? I mean, maybe it's a good thing his story wasn't quite as eventful.
I know, right? Talk about a reality check. It really makes you appreciate the ordinary days when nothing too crazy happens.
Speaking of crazy, this next story from the podcast that we can actually sink our teeth into. A massive shipment of candy that got confiscated by Israeli customs.
Yes. The great roll-up seizure of 2023. It sounds strange on the surface, but then you factor in social media and suddenly it all makes sense.
Okay, I'm all ears. What's the story? Why were customs officials so concerned about some candy?
We're not talking about a couple bags here. This was hundreds of kilograms of roll-ups. Hundreds. That's over 600 pounds, if you're wondering.
Whoa, someone was stocking up. What was the deal with all those roll-ups?
TikTok, my friend. It all goes back to a viral trend. People were combining roll-ups with ice cream, and it just blew up. Demand went crazy. Stores were selling out left and right, and people, well, they were getting desperate.
Wow. I know social media trends can influence, like, fashion and music, but I never would have thought it could lead to an international candy shortage.
It's wild, right? Just goes to show you how quickly those trends can take off, especially when you're dealing with something as, visual and shareable as food.
It really makes you think, huh? One TikTok video, and suddenly there's a run on a candy we haven't thought about since, what, childhood?
It's like the power of the internet, right?
Right.
But in the form of sugary fruit snacks.
Exactly. But it does make you wonder, what's next? Are we going to see people hoarding, I don't know, like mustard-flavored milkshakes because of some viral video?
Let's hope it doesn't come to that. But on a more serious note, this whole thing with the roll-ups, it does raise some questions, like how much influence does social media really have? Especially in younger generations.
That's a really good point. It's a whole new world out there, isn't it?
It really is. It's
Yeah.
like its own universe with its own rules. And those rules, they change all the time.
It's true, and it can be tough to keep up.
Absolutely. And it's easy to get caught up in the fun of it all, like the roll-ups thing. Kind of funny when you think about it. But it does highlight something important. Media literacy, Thinking critically about what we see online, it's more important than ever.
Couldn't agree more. It's so easy to just get swept up in the trends, taking that step back, actually thinking about what we're consuming online. Yeah, that's huge. Okay, next up, we've got a hungry art student, a famous, very expensive art installation, and one missing banana.
You could probably guess where this is
I
going.
guess performance art, part of the exhibit.
Nope. This student straight up ate the banana. It was part of the art.
Well, that's one way to experience art, I guess. Very interactive. Though I'm sure the artist wasn't thrilled.
Probably not. Last one. This one's a doozy. An Uber Eats driver doing their thing gets a 1-star review for refusing to deliver a package. Seemed a little harsh, right? Except turns out the package was chock full of crystal meth. Oh, wow. Talk about a bad tip. That's actually really scary when you think about it. Those drivers are putting themselves out there, and you never know what you're going to get. Literally.
Exactly. A little empathy goes a long way, folks. Remember that the next time you order takeout. But with that, we've come to the end of our whirlwind tour of the strange, the surprising, and the downright unbelievable.
It's wild, right? All these crazy stories. But even with all the laughs, it makes you think, doesn't it?
It really does. It's like they hold up a mirror, Not a normal mirror, more like one of those funhouse mirrors, all distorted. They show us these weird reflections of, like, human nature and what we find interesting.
Yeah, like that Princess Di pork chop.
Yeah.
It's funny, sure, but it also kind of shows how obsessed we are with celebrities, even when they pop up in the most random places. And then there's that sperm donor story, which is, well, it's a lot to process. But it brings up these huge ethical questions, especially with all the reproductive technology stuff that's, changing so fast these days.
Yeah, no doubt. It makes you realize that just because we can do something doesn't mean we always should,
Yeah,
and that sometimes progress comes with a whole other set of problems to figure out.
for sure. And hey, remember that moose with a taste for popcorn? I mean, it's hilarious, but it also reminds us that nature finds a way, right? Even if it means sneaking into a movie theater for a snack.
Totally. Life's full of surprises, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I think what's really interesting is how all these stories, even though they're all over the place, they kind of connect us. We see ourselves in them. The good, the bad, the ridiculous. It's all part of being human.
Absolutely. We're all just out here trying to make sense of this crazy world, one weird news story at a time.
That's the truth. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the bizarre and unbelievable. But before you go, we want to leave you with one last thought. Take a look around your own backyard. What kind of strange and surprising things are happening right where you are? What would your local bizarre news roundup look like?
Keep your eyes open and be ready to laugh because you never know what kind of craziness is lurking just around the corner.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for exploring with us.